Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. That's right. It is Tuesday, April 25th. And today is National Hug a Plumber Day because, of course, plumber cracks are so important. It's also National DNA Day. It's National Zucchini Bread Day. So I wonder if Gretchen has been baking. National East Meets West Day. National Telephone Day, because without cell phones, what else would we do in America? And it's, of course, National Library Workers Day, because people should probably read more books. But thank you for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. Use that fancy little QR code right there in the top hand corner of your screen to find out exactly where we live in the internet. And we're live every Monday through Friday on YouTube and audio only on Clubhouse. And if you are joining us on Clubhouse, you can also participate in the show by raising your hand if you have a comment on the story most recently presented. But without further ado, we're going to kick this off with the dope dad himself. That's right. It is Rico Lamitte. When Rico is not doing daddy daycare, you can find him packing boxes or actually unpacking boxes, because I'm pretty sure all the shit that he has is going to take at least a few weeks to unpack. That's right. Is the dope dad himself, Rico Lamitte.
I'm actually almost done unpacking, Jason. Thank you very much. But my story is a feel-good story. We're going to start the things off with a little happiness today. And coming out of Michigan. Now, some call them stizzy, some call them steezy, but you can't call them broke. Legendary California-based cannabis brand owned by Shrine Group, Steezy, has been fortunate enough to sidestep much of the drama plaguing lifestyle brands, making the journey from legacy to legal, eventually becoming MSO behemoths by building and maintaining bonds with the local communities where it operates, aligning their own messaging and outreach initiatives to mirror that of local consumers. Call it what you want, conscious capitalism or pandering, it works. And sticking to that smart playbooks paid dividends for the brand many times over, as they've been able to not only win over the hearts and dollars of consumers in new markets, but the respect of mainstream communities as well. Steezy's tried and true practice kicked into high gear this weekend in Metro Detroit, where Jason Beck is also known as White Gucci. In late March, here's what happened. A major Burger King franchise owner with 26 Michigan locations decided it was time to call it quits. With margins down and an economic outlook seeming grim, an announcement was made that all 26 locations would be shutting down and more than 400 jobs would be lost. Sad, but it's all part of the economic cycle. Unfortunately, real human livelihoods hang in the balance, and it's mostly low-wage and or skilled workers that suffer the most in downturns like we're currently experiencing. But this weekend, we saved the day. Steezy announced that they would be offering immediately hire up to 200 workers for positions at their nearby manufacturing facility in Orion Township, making vape pods, infused blunts, and pre-rolls. And if there's enough interest from former Burger King employees, they'd hire an additional 200 in the coming months. With the new jobs paying more than Burger King ever did for time served making Whoppers, Steezy's teeing up $16 an hour for the day shift, $16.50 the night shift, and benefits, full benefits. So now they'll go home post shift smelling like weed instead of burger grease. Everybody wins. Per the article, the jobs are part-time or full-time, whatever the worker prefers. Coincidentally, the Burger King layoffs came at a time Steezy was having internal conversations about boosting its workforce to meet the rising demand for products. Steezy operates dispensaries in Ferndale, Battle Creek, and Kalamazoo and sells its products to more than 500 cannabis retailers across the state. Steezy made the application process easy for former Burger King workers by just putting out the email. And for those out there that are affected, just email them at officemi@shrinegroup.com with your full name, phone number, and email address, and they'll say that they will be in touch. With all the negativity running rampant in daily cannabis news cycle these days, especially tied to MSOs, it's always good to hear a bit of positivity sprinkled in there as well. Big up Steezy, Shrine Group, and all the folks benefiting from this move. I'm Rico Lamitte, dopest dad on the street for High at 9 News. What say you about this, Jason?
I mean, I already put it in the thing. I like these guys are going from flipping burgers to flipping packs.
Yeah. Big shout out to weed. Yeah.
Can they still have it their way, though? Hold the pickle, hold the lettuce?
Exactly. They're going to hold the lettuce for sure. That's for sure.
Ooh, let us help you.
I think it speaks to the lack of people in the job force for the cannabis industry right now. And if you need a job and you're willing to flip burgers, then take a look at the cannabis industry. I think it's a good thing, but it also shines the light on the fact that there's heavy turnover in the cannabis industry when it comes to employment, and looking for good people that want to work can be a challenge for some for parts of this industry. So I think it's great.
You know who the biggest winner in all of this is?
Who?
McDonald's. Because they have no more competition in the whole entire state of Michigan.
They're not shutting their stores down. They're just building more kiosks and kicking their workers out.
Exactly.
Automated Big Macs.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I think it's great. All jokes aside, though, I think what this is very telling. I think that the standard has been met. That like the employees of cannabis companies and corporations are going to be equated to fast food workers, and the wages therein are the same as fast food wages. So I think that's more of the story there, is that, hey, this is the promulgation of like the industry-wide standard now of like hiring people at minimum wage to do this work.
But Steezy's
$16 an hour.
They're paying them more, but they're paying them more. But what I'm saying is that like the entry level to the cannabis industry is not a bachelor's degree. It's like you can come out of like the service industry, out of the quick serve industry, and you're going to find your way in there. And I commend Stizzy for sure. I know those guys are great for paying them a little more, but this is like, it's like how there's also, on the other side of the coin, there's also strikes happening, I think, in Michigan at some of these dispensaries. The employees are striking because they're not getting paid enough to live. Like that's like, we need to get to a point where people can like live off of this work, right? So,
well, hold on. The cost of living is not that expensive in Michigan, first of all. Okay, and there wasn't very much outrage yesterday when we covered the True Leaf story and the fact that they were paying African American workers 50 cents less per hour at around the same rate that that Stizzy is paying its workers. And so I wonder what's going on, Trey.
Were you getting at there? Was a connection?
I'm just saying that those same wages were the same wages that that True Leaf was talking about paying people yesterday, and no one was disgruntled about the wages that True Leaf was paying yesterday, other than the fact that they were paying African American employees 50 cents less per hour than other workers on the same level. So I'm just wondering why we're mad at Stizzy for paying.
I don't think it was mad at Stizzy. I think
Saman wasn't on yesterday, so I don't know why you're complaining.
Thank you, Gretchen. Coming to my rescue. Yes, Gretchen.
I mean, was he here? Bitching?
Thank
No.
you.
And I know that, cost of living in Michigan isn't as much, but can you live off $16 an hour, Jason Beck?
Shit, Jason? No way.
Tell you something.
Hourly wage, Jason.
Come on.
I ordered lunch yesterday, and that alone was $50. So yeah.
Yeah, I had a turkey sandwich at San Francisco Airport at like 10 p.m. last night, and that cost me $40. So yeah.
They need to do audit of airport pricing. Like straight up, airport pricing is out of control. Like you just get a sandwich and it's $20.
It was crazy.
You know what I feel like is they do have those laws, like those price gouging laws, like whenever there's a major national disaster and they're trying to go and arrest people for selling bottles of water for $20 a water.
Mm-hmm.
You know. I agree with you. I think there does need to be some type of investigation into airport.
And you can't bring your own water in there.
Yeah.
It might be a bomb.
Stop it.
But I think the best part about this story, and I'm really trying not to be like, oh yeah, I'm all on like Shrine's nuts or anything like that. But they're actually giving people benefits too. They actually put that out there that they're actually
great.
Yeah, they're actually
great. No, that's really good.
$15 an hour ain't bad if you're getting benefits too.
Yeah, that means that $16 goes up to over $20 an hour if they're getting benefits.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I mean, how much should a trimmer get paid? How much should a cultivation worker get paid?
No trimmer should get an hourly rate. They should get a
per pound
rate per pound based off of results that they do, not based off of an hourly stipend.
Are you against the automatic trimmers, Jason?
I have a question. Did this story say what jobs they're offering, or it just said jobs?
It just said,
no, they did.
Entry level job.
The type of jobs? I didn't catch that.
Hold up.
I think it said entry level.
Yeah, they said jobs starting at 16.
It just says part or full time is what I see.
Yeah, day shift, night shift, and it's they'll be assembling like vape pods, infused blunts, and pre-rolls.
Interesting.
It didn't say what exactly the positions would be.
So this is they're putting products together. These guys aren't becoming bud tenders, or they're not trimmers, or
no, they're working in the factory basically. They're working on the assembly line.
They're working
assembling
in
the manufacturing,
packaging. But that's kind of okay. So let's take it a step further. How many people that have been in the industry that have worked on compliance that have seen the mistakes happening at the assembly line stage from the employees that aren't making a lot of money because they're not paying attention, right? So when they see a batch date that has like a different year on it than what is the current year, or a production date that's not the right production date, or just something that's if someone was paying a little closer attention, they could prevent those products to getting to market, prevent them from being recalled, sent back. I mean, that's ultimately like, I mean, yes, that's extreme. But I mean, that's kind of what the course is of this, right? It's like if you have the workers that are just head down doing the thing and they're just like concerned about clocking the time and getting their check, they're not exactly doing you a favor as a license holder, because they might overlook something that could, create an issue for your supply chain down the line. But that's an extreme thing, but I'm just bringing that up because I think that's kind of what I've seen. And this is, Stizzy, those guys do, exactly what I do in this industry. So that's something that I've seen happen more times than not. And I think others can potentially agree, or there might be some other comments, but it's just something to think about. It's like, pay is equal to effort in our society. And when you feel like you're getting paid equitably, you're putting more effort into what you're doing, and maybe you're better at it. But that's just my 2 cents.
Well, what I like about this story, and I'm not going to get into the hourly wage or whatever they're doing, because it is still $6 more than the minimum wage in Michigan. I think what people should be thrilled about is that cannabis is stepping up in communities that need help, for folks who need jobs. And this shows to the state of Michigan that cannabis wants to pitch in. They want to be parts of the community. This helps to work on the stigma attached to it, that there are good business owners who want to provide jobs for everyone. And regardless of where they are in the state, they're saying, we're here and we want to help people. I think that's a good thing. And I think other cannabis companies should be looking to do this kind of outreach in their communities to get employees.
I agree with you on that, Gretchen.
Wait, did you guys just agree on something?
Thank you, Jason Beck.
Wait a second.
Wait, what's the date?
Give us 30 seconds.
Don't worry, we're going to go to another story. We're going to go to a commercial first.
Let's do it.
Oh, yeah. You know what time it is? That's right. It's Tuesday over here at Green Street, and we got Smoky Vanilla with us in the building. So that's right. It is time to stretch and smoke. We just got done smoking. Now we're going to stretch it out, and then we're going to smoke again.
Let's go. I'm Smoky Vanilla with my background in kinesiology and bodywork massage and assisted stretching. You got to come check it out, baby. Check me out on IG. It's Smoky Vanilla 1, Stretch and Smoke. Twitter, Smoky Vanilla. Social Club, Stretch and Smoke. We're also on Sports Recovery by Dan and Jam.
If you want to feel as good as I look, then make sure that you get a stretch and smoke in with Smoky Vanilla.
Yay!
That could be the best commercial I've ever seen.
I think it is.
The history of commercials.
There's some stars in that commercial for sure.
Straight up. What up next? He's the industry's longest continuously operating retailer and self-proclaimed highest Republican in the game. Well known for smoking the best weed in the world and paying $50 pre-tax for vegan burger dine-in lunches with Tucker Carlson. Y'all know who it is. Jason.
Let me tell you something. When we go and have lunch with Tucker, lunches are a lot more than $50, bro. Okay.
Just the bow tie alone. The bow tie alone costs you an arm and a leg.
Yeah, just know that. Yeah. Beverly Hills Hotel ain't cheap. Polo Lounge popping. But nonetheless, you guys, I have a pretty interesting story today. Semi-interesting. Alabama, right? Everyone knows where that is. Alabama nixes a recent basketball transfer following a marijuana arrest. Wichita State basketball transfer Jaquan Walton, who was set to join Alabama this season, was arrested late Saturday night on a charge of second-degree possession of marijuana, the Tuscaloosa Police Department confirmed to Tide Illustrated. Following news of the arrest, Alabama released a statement from the head coach, Nate Oates, stating that Alabama is no longer recruiting Jaquan Walton and he will not be a student athlete at the University of Alabama. Walton announced his transfer from Wichita State to Alabama last month. According to TPD spokesperson Stephanie Taylor, officers received multiple complaints from residents about a large number of vehicles parked in their parking lots at apartment complexes off the strip. I don't know why that is a problem, but that's whatever. Upon arrival, officers approached an occupied vehicle in the 400 block of Reed Street at 10:11 p.m. The officers smelled marijuana and asked the three men to exit the car. Walton, 21, of the Pike Road community in Montgomery County, was in the front passenger seat and informed an officer of a loaded firearm under his seat. While retrieving the firearm, the officer noticed a rolling tray and a baggie containing approximately 20 grams of marijuana and a half-rolled blunt in the passenger side floorboard. Officers located two more loaded weapons in the vehicle and another baggie containing 12 grams of marijuana that had belonged to backseat passenger Cameron Deshaun Harris, 21, of Bessemer. Harris and Walton both were charged with second-degree possession of marijuana and released after posting $500 bond. The driver was released with no charges. Walton averaged 13.99 points and 5.3 rebounds for Wichita State last season before his lone season with the Shockers. The 6'7", 206-pound wing spent a season with the Shelton State Community College, averaging 12.9 points and 4.2 rebounds with 2.8 assists and 1.3 steals in 22 games. He began his college career at Georgia, appearing in 9 games over 2 seasons with the Bulldogs from 2019 to 2011. Oh man, I have a lot of thoughts, but I want to hear what you guys have to say about this. This is Jason Beck reporting for the High at 9 News, and I'm just going to want to say, don't sit in cars smoking weed with loaded firearms. Leave the firearms in the car and stand outside of the car and smoke weed. And this is a public service.
This is another story of a young Black man whose life is ruined because of cannabis. Justin in our comments said, "Oh, rolling around with guns, smoking a blunt. This isn't a cannabis story; it's a gun story." But this is a Black man living in Alabama story.
In Kansas. This happened in Kansas.
I'm sorry, Kansas. Yeah. You said he played for Alabama. I'm sorry, Kansas. Yes. And it really doesn't matter what state. The ratio of Black and brown people who get arrested more than people, non-Black and brown people, is on average in this country 4-1. In some states, like in Alabama, like in Mississippi, it's 8-1. And so, if this was a young man that was not melanated, I wonder if the story would have been the same. But it's just unfortunate that cannabis can ruin someone's life and career at such a young age with so much talent. Because I don't know, is Kansas an open carry state?
I would say Kansas is an open carry state, but at the same time, I find it interesting that they didn't mention any gun charges for any of these.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And I'm going to pick it up there because Alabama just went through the NCAA tournament with their star player being an accessory or alleged accessory to murder. Right? The star player, and they didn't say shit about that. They let him play the whole tournament. And they're like, and they even had the t-shirts made by the fans saying Alabama basketball murdering our way to the top or killing the NCAA tournament or whatever.
Because he's a star.
You don't take this young man transferring into your program because of a weed charge. Come on, man. What's really going on down there?
Can we talk about, I think, what is kind of like the point that I think a lot of us are missing is the fact that the cops were called because there were too many people in the parking lot. What crime is that? And why are you calling the police because there's too many people in your parking lot?
So that's what white business owners do.
Totally ridiculous.
Karen must have called.
That's what a Karen does.
White business owners do.
Karen was calling.
Too many Black people in the parking lot.
It's an apartment complex.
Look up the history of loitering, and what loitering is Black people hanging out in parking lots, or Black people walking around, too many people
congregating,
conversing.
All you need is more than two.
Yeah,
that would be
considered
3.
Hanging out while Black, you're loitering, and you're
driving while Black. It's all the same thing, and it's a reality in our communities. These are the kind of conversations that that our parents have with us, that parents of Black children have with their kids. You have to be mindful. You don't have the same privileges as your white friends or white counterparts to just be of color, standing on a corner somewhere, minding your business, or walking from the store with your Skittles and sweet tea. Like, you just don't have the same benefits because of the color of your skin walking around.
Can't live. I just want to live.
Well, now that college students can endorse products, maybe he can get a gig endorsing some cannabis product.
Yeah.
So doors are opening for him.
Not in Arkansas.
I think you probably get more money from a gun company.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah, you get $16 an hour from a cannabis company.
Exactly.
I know they have those new you have like the thumbprint. It's a thumbprint gun.
Oh man.
They need some need a spokesman for that shit. Sorry. I'm swearing.
We're gonna keep it moving on that. Coming up next, that's right. Just the feisty redheaded conservative that loves to talk trash and beat up on people because they just are not in the right type of mindset. She's the first person to tell you about yourself, and she loves to bake up a storm. That's right. It is the founder of Panoptic Strategies. That's right, Gretchen Gailey.
I think that was a piss poor intro, Jason. And I don't know.
I'm sorry. I'll try to do better tomorrow, Gretchen. I apologize.
She's just disgusted.
That was terrible.
I'm sorry.
Disgusted.
I apologize. Hopefully you'll do better with your story.
Did you hear the sigh? Hopefully. Anything's a step up from that. My headline is as cannabis stores are slow to open, worries over Delta 8 sales grow. This is from the New Jersey Monitor. In Jersey City, searching Google for dispensary near me will return dozens of hits, even though the only legal recreational cannabis shops within 10 miles are in Secaucus, Bloomfield, and Elizabeth. The results include stores with neon cannabis signs in their windows and flashy packaging for edibles that don't typically sell legal weed, but instead peddle products containing Delta 8, a psychoactive chemical found in the cannabis plant that doesn't give the same effects as the marijuana legalized in New Jersey, which is derived from Delta 9. There's no license required to sell Delta 8, which is not evaluated or approved by federal or state agencies, a loophole convenience stores, gas stations, and smoke shops have pounced on in recent months to fill a gap in the gray cannabis market. Legal recreational stores have been slow to open, and they stock products with stubbornly high prices. Meanwhile, Delta 8 gummies, vapes, and joints are cheap and easy to find. That worries lawmakers who fear kids can get their hands on dangerous chemicals, and cannabis entrepreneurs who fear the prevalence of Delta 8 products confuses customers and may drive them away from legal cannabis products. A lot of people are going into it like, oh, I can get high illegally and not worry about it, said Michael Bajans, who is opening Green Night Cannabis in Franklin Township in Somerset County. But I think people start to ingest it. The next day you wake up and have this hangover or like a mental block on your stomach hurts and it's like, what did I take? The Federal Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the FDA warn that Delta 8 products have not been evaluated or approved and could be potentially dangerous. The chemical contributed to more than 2,000 accidental poisonings between January 2021 and February 2022. The Farm Bill passed by Congress in 2018 legalized hemp and led to the boom in Delta 8, a hemp-derived cannabinoid. Delta 8 is less potent than Delta 9, the chemical that produces the feeling you're high, and it's been marketed as an alternative to weed with less paranoia, less anxiety, and a less intense high, according to the FDA. But without oversight, critics say products being sold in many stores are pumped with Delta 8 or manufactured carelessly using household chemicals. The FDA warns that chemicals could be used to change the color of the final product. A Virginia Commonwealth University study that tested dozens of products bought in that state, were found to have up to 10 times as much Delta 8 as advertised and included synthetic cannabinoids. In another study by Chemical Research and Toxicology, researchers tested 27 Delta 8 products and found none of them contained the levels advertised, and even tested positive for heavy metals, including lead and mercury. I don't think anybody saw these synthetic distillations happening the way they did, but once we saw that was happening and children were at risk of putting this unregulated crap into their bodies, the federal government should have taken action. It's policy malfeasance that they didn't. And this is according to Senator Declan O'Scanlan, who has introduced a bill that would require New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission, which oversees the medical and recreational marijuana market, to also regulate the sale of hemp and Delta 8. The legislature shouldn't be getting into the nitty-gritty when we have the power to give it to a regulatory body that can protect consumers, particularly our kids who are buying this crap that we have no idea what it is. I do believe that they should be regulating Delta 8. I think, frankly, every cannabinoid should be regulated for consumer safety. But I don't think legislatures should be singling out Delta 8 because that is simply going to allow enterprising entrepreneurs to start finding another cannabinoid to abuse. This is Gretchen for High at 9 News.
I agree with you, Gretchen, on just about everything you said today.
Since it's 100 different compounds, I mean, hundreds of different compounds, but just cannabinoids alone. I mean, and then we're not even to mention the synthetic derived cannabinoids that they're coming up with. Yeah, I think it is just a matter of time. Totally agree, Gretchen.
I mean, this is going to be a big win. I mean, the market in New Jersey is already crushing. And if they eliminate Delta 8 products from the shelves, that's just going to drive more consumers to these new stores that are opening up. And the New Jersey market is going to thrive even more than it already is.
I mean, Delta 8 should come
I have
from
to.
a
I have to
dispensary.
dig a bit more in. I have to dig a bit more into the bill that Scanlon has produced. It's over 18 pages. But Jason, this is not about making Delta 8 illegal. This is actually about regulating it.
So they're gonna
what's in it.
they're gonna put them through the same like testing requirements. Is that what you're saying? As like normal cannabis products?
Yes.
They
Yes.
should.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm fine with that.
Yes.
At
Yes.
the same time, that is the elimination of most Delta 8 products anyway, once you put them through that type of process.
I mean, is it, or do they have enough conclusive evidence to start to
Do you
preclude
think
some of that product?
the Delta 8 products would pass the type of testing that cannabis products go through?
Jason, if it passes a Cat 3 pesticide test, if it passes a heavy metal test, they'll pass it. If it has Delta 8 and it doesn't make it not viable for the product, that's the problem. The regulators don't know what's a bad and good percentage of Delta 8 versus Delta 9. But the problem is they're making Delta 9 products, and that's the real issue. It's not even the Delta 8. It's the Delta 9 gummies and the Delta 9 vapes and whatever the conversions they're making, the isomers they're making from CBD. And Delta 8's not the only one. It's because there's actually Delta 9 products on these shelves in Florida, in Texas, in Kentucky, in all these other states when we have a regulated market for Delta 9. That's the issue, right? That's the core of the issue, is we have to play by a certain set of rules, and these other guys in these other states that are making Delta 8 products and selling them in head shops, they don't have to do any of that. Their burden to deliver the product to the market is like nothing compared to what we're doing. So, I mean, that's the real issue, because anybody who's a medical patient in Florida that pays the state to have a medical card to go into a shop to buy an overpriced product can get the same Delta 9 product, obviously not natural, it's converted from CBD, but they can get that in a head shop, no medical card, no nothing, and it's probably a lot cheaper. That's the issue.
Delta 8 is regulated in Nevada. It's considered a cannabis product. So we test for Delta 8 on every cannabis product that comes through the lab. It is a regulated product, and the CCB also has their own set of cops who go into these head shops, into these CBD stores, and they purchase lots of these Delta 8 products. They bring them to my lab, and we do testing for them. And there are lots of Delta 9 and Delta 8 products out in the world at head shops and smoke shops.
How many of those pass testing at your lab, Todd, and how many of those fail?
Most of them pass the testing because we test for certain things, right? We test for 23 pesticides, 4 heavy metals, and then a complete micro screen. But most of them are passing. There's not a lot of pesticides on products these days, although there is an outbreak here in Nevada with Epithon, that it is a non-regulated pesticide that people seem to be using. And there's lots of bans of these products, and these products are being taken out of dispensaries. But I'm just saying that Delta 8 is just as powerful as Delta 9 if you smoke a lot of it, right? It needs to be regulated just like any other cannabis product.
Whatever happened to that in Jason? Whatever happened to that in California? We were supposed to have like all hemp products only sold in dispensaries too. I think there was something.
No, ever since the beginning, they had said that you
said there was going to happen in
California, and then they came out with a separate bill,
to
allow for hemp-derived stuff to be put into food and whatnot, like at restaurants and stuff, and additives. You could add it to a drink, and then that was turned down, and it's one big S show for all of it.
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
yeah.
So what is this? What is the solution?
Hold on. Well, I don't know if there is a solution, but Todd, what did you say was the name of that new thing that everybody's using?
Oh, Epithon.
Epithon. Is that made by the people that make the EpiPen?
I don't think so.
Eagle 20.
No, it is a pesticide that, like I said, is not we don't test for it in Nevada, but people are using it, on some of their products, according to the CCB anyway.
Well, we got to go to a commercial. We're going to be right back.
Keeping up to date on the evolving policies of relevant state, local, and federal governments is key to success. When the future of your business is at stake, You need representation as dedicated as you are. With a maze of laws and regulations surrounding cannabis, hemp, and psychedelics, knowing where to begin can be a challenge. Good thing the law offices of Omar Figueroa features a skilled, highly focused team ready to guide you through it all. They're accepting new clients in California and New York. So make sure you check them out at info@omarfigueroa.com.
Oh, yeah, it's that time in the show. We're at halftime. We want to thank you all for tuning in regularly and watching us. And if you make sure that you are going over to our YouTube page, hitting that subscribe button if you haven't already, hit that like button down below, and make sure that you head over to our website and sign up for our newsletter that goes out every Saturday. Also, too, when you do sign up for our newsletter, you will get an email confirming. And a lot of times these emails get put into your junk or your spam email, so make sure you check in there as well. We're going to go right back to a commercial. Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated.
Oh, yeah. Coming up next, she is a patient, plant medicine advocate, and founder of Purple Plant Magic. And Wednesday mornings, you can catch her on Power 88. Las Vegas is the encyclopedia. You know who she is. Coming to the stage next, she is the Western. I'm gonna mess this intro up already because of your new.
I need you to do that.
It's going around. It's not just me.
Your new title. She is the leader of all Black people in the state of Las Vegas. For M4MM, y'all know she's doing great things. And you can correct me on the title because I don't have it in my script right here. So I apologize for that.
It's okay. It's all right. I love you anyway.
Love you so much. Nicole Buffong.
Thanks so much for botching that intro, Rico. I appreciate you, my brother. Okay, so and I want to be clear that Minorities for Medical Marijuana is for everyone, not just for Black people. We like to see, if you like to see a diverse and inclusive cannabis industry, then join us because we are very inclusive. We have members that come from all backgrounds, and so it's not you don't have to be Black to be a member of M4MM, just for clarification. All right, so I found this fun article. Gretchen is a member active member of M4MM. Thanks for all your work, Gretchen. So I found a fun one. I love this concept because I know education is at the key to everything that we do, and in order to move this industry forward. So I found this article that was posted in Forbes yesterday. A cannabis museum focused on drug wars wants to change hearts and minds. When April Arasta got a license to open a recreational cannabis dispensary in Boston, it followed a successful stint of her being a producer of medical marijuana in Connecticut. There would be a difference with her new business. She wanted it to have a mission: enter the core social justice cannabis museum. Rather than simply explore the history of the plant, the museum, which opened in March of 2021, alongside Arasade's, I'm messing up her name, sorry sis, Seed Dispensary, focuses on the inequities of American drug policy through a series of changing exhibits. A lawyer with a biotech background, I'm just going to call her by her first name, April, is hoping that in some way her museum, for which she serves as executive director, will be able to change marijuana policy toward the better, or at least change people's perspective about cannabis. So far, the museum, a nonprofit, is making serious headway. Not only has it attracted a diverse pool of investors, some of whom have been incarcerated as a result of the drug wars, but a new location will be opening in Portland, Maine in May. Understandably, April and her team are excited about this milestone. Now their goal is to spread the word about the new location, as well as score more sponsorships and donations. Recently, she spoke about the genesis of the museum, the exhibits, and what she would like every person to come away with after visiting either location. She was asked, "What made you choose the current exhibit in Boston?" American warden investigates incarceration in America against the backdrop of cannabis prohibition. That's the name of the exhibit. For example, every male born after 2001 has a 1 in 13 chance of ending up in jail in America. That's based on 2019 crime statistics released by the FBI. If we take cannabis off the table, everyone would be safer. The museum is there to examine the effect our laws have had on our people and our culture. American Warden is the first stab at it. The second question she was asked is, what exhibit will launch the Portland location? She said it's called Seed to Soul. I really want people to understand the impact our laws have had on the plant, all the way to the cultivation and production process, to how it interacts with our body and gets to your soul, giving it a high. Everyone wants to know how this plant is grown. What I want to do is show is how our laws have impacted the chemical makeup of the plant. So I thought that I've heard this museum concept with other groups that I work with, and I think it's a great idea. It's a great way to break the stigma. A lot of people only associate cannabis with crime and negativity, and of course, it being a dangerous drug. So I think that it's important for these type of museums to exist, not just here in the United States, but all over the world, explaining the history of cannabis in that particular country or that particular region, to really connect with the people, to help them to understand that, you know, that by design, that this plant was taken from us and replaced with synthetic medications and criminalized at the same time. So the people who had been using it for generations and decades now all of a sudden become criminals, no longer doctors or naturopaths or herbalists. So I think it's important to tell those stories. And so I'd love to hear what my correspondents think about this. This is Nicole Buffong reporting for High at 9 News.
I love it. The more we can shed light on.
And this is in Massachusetts?
Yeah, well, she first had her store in Boston, is what it said. She first got licensed in Boston, and she is producing this museum there as well. But she's opening up a second location in Portland, is what it said.
Did it say if she was the recipient of any grant funding to fund the?
Did not. So because it says that she's looking for sponsorships and donations to help fund the museum. So it did say that in there.
And does she have a date, an anticipated date of opening?
That's not in the article. I'm very interested in learning more about this museum because, of course, I want to go visit. And so I won't be going to Maine anytime soon, but I should be in the Boston area to be able to go check it out. And I know, you know, there was a Cannabis museum here in Las Vegas that shut down a couple of years ago, and it's supposed to be the rights to that museum is supposed to be opening up in Planet 13. So Planet 13 bought it. And so I love the Cannabis Museum that was here in Las Vegas. It was here open when I first moved here in 19. And so I'm very interested to see what it's going to look like when it opens back up in Planet 13. It's also, of course, important to know who is telling the story when it comes to history, because there's, you know, selective memory, I'd like to call it, especially here in the United States when it comes to telling the true story.
Yep, and they try to erase what happened as soon as they start making money and moving in another direction. So I think
a cannabis museum in Florida would be a nightmare.
Right. Yeah, I think it's very, very important that we continue to tell the stories of our fallen brothers and sisters along the way and what has happened. And you know, every time we big up a company for making X amount of dollars, we need to shine that light right back behind us on the incarcerated folks who remain incarcerated, remain prisoners of the failed racist war on drugs.
That's right.
So I'm wondering, is there how big of a chance do you think, Nicole, that this actually doesn't open because they don't get the money that they need to lift it off the ground?
I mean, she has a cannabis dispensary. She'll self-fund it. She seems pretty passionate about this. So I feel like
self-funding a museum off of money that you make off of a single dispensary is not a lot of money to fund a museum.
Well, she's got 2 dispensaries now. She's licensed in multiple states.
Even if you 10x it, we're talking.
You're absolutely right. Unless you are an MSO, I mean, she would be considered an MSO because she is a multi-state operator. But I'm sure she does not have. I don't want to assume to know what's in her pockets, but you know, having big MSO money to be able to fund something like this, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But
I don't think there is real big MSO money, because if you look at all the money that they owe in taxes, I don't think there's a lot of big MSO money either.
I mean,
well, they might not be making money off of the actual license and the dispensary or the retail operation, but they have money. They have long money. They have enough money to wait this thing out. I'm sure much more money than what April has to wait out to them figuring out 280E, them figuring out safe banking. Like that's the difference. Operators like Pure Leaf, they just have long money. They've got money that comes from other industries. And so they might not be making money in actual cannabis, but they have enough money to sustain and stay around.
And also in Portland, Maine, Last Prisoner Project has a little bit of a connection with their dispensary that they opened in Portland, Maine. Maybe they can shoo over a few of those dollars and help them out.
Do people really want to go to a cannabis museum? I mean, in Vegas, they did not. Here's a place that 40 million people come a year, and nobody wanted to go see Cannabition. The pot industry and the workers and everything, we all went there and checked it out, and we thought it was great, but they couldn't get bus loads of tourists there. So do people really want one?
And I guess that's why they decided to move it into Planet 13. That way it's like already there and just an added activation versus being in a separate location. That makes sense.
I agree with you, Todd. There was a cannabis museum that was out here for about 3 months that Weed Maps had put together, and that was a smash. You know what I mean? As far as that, but that was funded. It was funded by Weed Maps, and then the intention of it wasn't to necessarily make money and have a profitable business off of it. So, and that's what I'm saying. I think for stuff like this, you're going to need that government grant funding in order to make these realistic things.
Good point, Jason.
We got to go. We got to go to a commercial. We're going to be right back.
How's it going, guys? Saman Razani coming to you from Green Street here with Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast available on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify? Tune in now and check it out.
Oh, yeah. Coming up next, that's right. It's the man, Mr. Saman Razani. He is a formulator of formulations, a designer of facilities, and he is the man that reminds women experiencing menopause how to say hello again. That's right. It is the man, Mr. Saman Razani. You're on mute, Saman. You're on mute.
He's on menopause.
Yeah, you're on mute. I don't hear you. No one hears you. No one hears you. Well, maybe we should just go to Todd. Maybe we should just go to Todd. We're getting a technical difficulty from Saman. Saman, check your audio settings. Check it out because we're not hearing you. Rico, you want to introduce Todd?
Yeah, absolutely. He is the dope granddaddy. And should we call him Granddaddy Dope? I don't know. You tell me. Coming to the stage, you know who it is. The man with the golden voice and co-founder of the Smuggleverse, a 30-year media producer, director, editor, and he did 13 years as C-suite cannabis executive. Y'all know who it is. Coming to the stage, Todd Denkin.
Thank you very much.
Something's up with our audio because my thing. There we go.
Hey, I also have my own applause in case yours doesn't work. So thank you. No, stop. Stop. Really, no, stop.
I mean, I think yours, Todd, could also be mistaken for running water.
Oh, I guess so. Well, my story comes out of the land down under and from High Times magazine as activists staged a 420 protest featuring a cavalcade of military vehicles traveling the streets of Sydney to publicize failed marijuana policies. A group of Australian cannabis activists took to the street of Sydney in a motorcade of military vehicles to protest failed war on drugs and policies that punish drivers who are found to have THC in their system, known collectively as the Who Are We Hurting Army. The group of activists staged their protest on 420, the global cannabis community's high holiday. The contingent of military vehicles included a tank traveled by the Sydney Opera House and the Sydney Harbour Bridge, two well-known landmarks in the Australian city that served as the backdrop for a protest on April 20, 2022 that featured cannabis imagery projected on the iconic structures. The organizers of last year's 420 protest, Alex Zammit and Will Stolk, have been criminally charged for their actions under a law that bans the projection of commercial images on the Sydney Opera House. The pair are on bail pending prosecution for their actions, which they maintain are a constitutionally protected protest of cannabis prohibition in Australia. For this year's demonstration, the group of activists secured a fleet of armored military vehicles to travel throughout Sydney to deliver facts about cannabis directly to Australian news outlets. The protest also aimed to highlight the failures of the cannabis policy in Australian state of New South Wales, which penalizes drivers who are found to have THC in their system. Under the law, drivers found to have THC in their system are subject to criminal penalties, including license suspension or revocation, stiff fines, and imprisonment. Zammit said that the military-style action was designed to highlight the harmful policies of the failed war on drugs. He said, this visual statement aims to highlight the need for a new approach to drug driving policy, one that prioritizes harm reduction and treatment over punishment and incarceration. The activists note that a 2019 study by Sydney University's Lambert Initiative, a research program investigating the medical potential of cannabis, found that while drivers under the influence of high-potency THC products exhibited more lane weaving, other measures showed that intoxicated drivers were somewhat safer. Intoxicated drivers tended to leave a larger gap between them and the car in front of them and showed no tendency to speed, according to the research. Driving with THC shouldn't make you an enemy, Zammit added. Driving laws need change. Cannabis patients deserve equal range, he added. The protest was also designed to educate the public about the benefits of cannabis legalization, including enhanced personal freedom and the potential for new sources of revenue for public services that could come with regulating and taxing commercial cannabis production and sales. We want to publicize the discussion around cannabis in Australia and ask the government who would be hurt by an amnesty, said fellow cannabis activist Stolk. We want to educate the Australian taxpayer on the benefits of fully legalizing cannabis in Australia. There is a huge amount of money that will flow into the coffers of the Australian government for use in healthcare, schools, and roads from taxes that will be taken from legalized cannabis. We also want to highlight the fact that the 75-plus year war on drugs has not worked and has cost the taxpayer billions of dollars fighting a war that cannot and will not ever be won, Stolk continued. The cannabis policy reform movement in Australia got a new boost recently when Legalised Cannabis New South Wales Party elected Jeremy Buckingham as its first member of parliament. Buckingham, a former Green Party member, said that he will spend much of his time in office advocating for the legalization of cannabis and related policy reforms. He said, I am honored to have been elected as the first member of parliament for the Legalised Cannabis New South Wales Party. I am committed to advancing the cause of drug law reform and working towards a more just and equitable society. I look forward to working with my colleagues in parliaments and with the broader community to make this vision a reality. Yet another objection to the failed war on drugs. I'm Todd Denkin with High 9 News, and what do you guys think about Australia's protest?
Yo, this is great. Let them smoke.
Yes.
Yeah, I love the protest, but if this guy thinks he's going to get anything done in Australian politics, he is smoking something really good too.
The smoke and drive party.
Yeah. I'm not mad.
I was down in Australia in 1999 and 2000, and it was legal back then in South Australia. And I was shooting a film and traveled all around the country, and we were able to find a pound of weed in South Australia, and we traveled around the whole country with this, and until we ran out, and then didn't have any more. But it was a legal product back in 2000, so I'm not really sure what happened between now and then. But clearly, there's some problems down there about driving with THC in your system. I could never drive a car if you can't drive with THC in your system.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Australia is known as the nanny state, so I mean, I'm not surprised at all. This is just typical nonsense from the Aussies. But I mean, there's a lot of issues in Australia. They have a lot of just drug issues down there. I don't know if any of you are like really hip to the whole underbelly of Australia, but it's definitely an issue for them. So this just makes sense for and on par for Australia, I guess, for their bureaucracy. But hopefully they change the rules. But it sounds like they have a lot of reform to go through, and we're definitely not going to hear the last story coming out of Australia.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us probably don't read our DUI laws because here in Nevada it is 0.2 nanograms of THC.
0.2?
Oh, and that's
0.2.
And that's 0.2. Yes. And that's where it stood 2 years ago when the Chamber of Cannabis reformed the DUI bill and made it so that just the amount of THC in your blood could not determine DUI. That's the way that we reformed it. But now there's a bill that's moving through state legislator session right now that's trying to eliminate that altogether, that it would completely eradicate our reform to the bill and make it so that if you have any amount of THC in your system. So most people are not paying attention to the laws the way that they're written on the book until it affects them.
Right.
But most of the states and places when UIs, what is written is ridiculous. Even in medical states, if you're a medical patient, you have more than 0.2 nanograms of cannabis of THC in your system every single day. So does it mean that you're intoxicated at the time of said accident?
Yeah.
Isn't in Nevada that you can't refuse the blood test too? Like something like
That's
that?
correct.
That's
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah,
That's
it's supposed to be
Well, that's not everywhere.
it sounds like nanny state to me.
In California, it's the same thing. In most places, if you refuse the blood test, then you automatically you lose your ability to drive. Period.
Yes.
Right. Well, you can have your license revoked immediately in some places. It just depends on the state, but they also can just take you to jail immediately.
They'll take you to jail. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. So you can refuse it, but they're taking you straight to jail.
Yep. Just remember though, if you get pulled over, just shut the
Shut
F
the fuck up.
Let them draw your blood.
I try to be.
Just shut up and let them just prick you.
Yeah.
We'll all get different kinds of things and inject you with all kinds of things. That's what you're supposed to do. I thought there's America, people.
Oh,
Joe Biden.
This is where they want to inject you with weird shit.
Yes, it is. We have Saman. You wanna give him an intro, Jason?
Yeah. So.
Oh, there we go. We got Saman back. That's right. He is here to try to do his story again, just like he reminds people how to say hello again.
Oh yes. I'm gonna just take that one to the grave. Absolutely, it's gonna always be my thing. I've got a great story coming from our friends at Marijuana Moment. This is about the American Pharmacists Association, the APHA. Top Pharmacists Association endorses drug decriminalization. Yeah. The American Pharmacists Association, APHA, is officially backing the decriminalization of all drugs and paraphernalia, earning the praise of drug reform and harm reduction advocates. Members of the APHA's House of Delegates voted to adopt the revised policy last month, becoming one of the nation's largest medical associations to endorse broad decriminalization. APHA supports the decriminalization of the personal possession or personal use of illicit drug substances or paraphernalia, the plank says. However, the association remains opposed to the, quote, legalization of the possession, sale, distribution, or use of illicit drug substances for non-medical uses. Members of the APHA, founded in 1852 and representing over 62,000 pharmacy professionals nationwide, also voted to remove a prior policy plank that voiced support for the use of drug courts as an alternative criminal justice pathway for those with drug-related convictions. Instead, a new policy says that it supports voluntary pathways for the treatment and rehabilitation of individuals that have been charged with the possession or use of illicit drug substances and who have substance use or other related medical disorders. Sheila Vakaria, Deputy Director of Drug Policy Alliance, DPA, Department of Research and Academic Engagement, said in a press release on Monday that APHA's historic statement recognizes that criminalization and punishment will only harm the most marginalized amongst us. And the pharmacists should work to expand access to life-saving harm reduction and treatment strategies that work. We have lost over 1 million lives to preventable overdose deaths during the overdose crisis, and it's clearer than ever that we must move away from the punitive approaches from punitive approach toward one grounded in compassion and public health if we want to save lives, she said. Adrian Simmons, Director of Programs at National Viral Hepatitis Roundtable, added that the association's support for addressing substance use as a health issue rather than crime strengthens pharmacists' role as public health professionals, and it is a critical step toward addressing rising overdose and hepatitis C infection rates. APHA is one of the latest health associations to back decriminalization, as a public opinion has shifted away from punitive drug laws toward health-focused harm reduction policies to combat the overdose crisis, though it is not the only one. In February, the American Society for Addiction Medicine, ASAM, which has historically aligned itself with prohibitionists and resisted modest marijuana reforms, called for the decriminalization of all currently illicit drugs in the interest of public health and racial equity. Another major medical group, the Minnesota Medical Association, the MMA, also recently endorsed broad drug decriminalization expungement for low-level possessions and promotion of statewide harm reduction programs. Nationwide, a strong majority of Americans, including most Republicans, support drug decriminalization, according to a poll released last year. There's also majority support overall for allowing the operation of overdose prevention centers, where people can use illicit substances in a medically supervised setting and receive treatment resources. Support for the decriminalization proposal increased by 10 percentage points overall since voters were asked about the same thing in 2021 with a different question and prior data for progress polls. Lawmakers in a number of states across the United States, including Massachusetts, New York, and Vermont, have filed drug decriminalization bills for the 2023 session. In 2021, congressional lawmakers filed the first ever bill to federally decriminalize possession of all currently illicit drugs, while also seeking to incentivize states to follow suit. Nora Volkow, director of the National Institute of Drug Abuse, NIDA, said last year that the ongoing criminalization of people over drug use needs to end in order to effectively address substance misuse and stigmatization of addiction. And this is Saman Razani reporting on this amazing story. And this is big news. I think this is all moving in the right direction, but I'd love to hear what my peers and our audience have to say. So what say you, peeps?
It is more validation.
I mean, you know what's happening in Amsterdam. I mean, in Netherlands, let's just say, it's like they have state sponsored clinics where people can, get their, get their drugs or whatever. It's not like, I don't want to say it's a recreational thing there. I don't really know. I don't have a ton of knowledge. I just know they've been doing this for years. It's been many years. I don't know the exact time frame, but there is no like panhandling and loitering and doing these weird things to get money to buy the drugs. It's the government is helping to administer these things, and so people can live a functional life, or as functional as possible. But I think this is like a step one to just giving people their dignity back. It's I mean, I don't want to incriminate myself. I think we've all experimented with many substances in our time, but no, there's some people that just to gain a dependence on some of these drugs, and instead of turning them into criminals, we should just give them their dignity back. That's just my opinion.
Yes, indeed.
I mean, Gretchen, what do you think about this? I mean, I think that's kind of a big deal.
Gretchen
Really?
don't care.
Sure.
Gretchen don't care?
I would like it if it were. I'd prefer if they were pushing for descheduling over decriminalization. I mean, it seems like a baby step.
I mean, at least it didn't say rescheduling.
Yeah.
I mean, baby steps are steps.
Yeah,
Fantastic, but I want them to push. I want them to push for something that actually has to do with the legitimacy and the efficacy of the plant.
Well, it's not planned. This is talking about all drugs,
decriminalizing
Gretchen. This is not talking about cannabis. This is talking about
get it. I
everything.
get it.
But I mean, you're you
I'm
made
sorry.
the
I
point.
think this is this is bullshit. I think this is a Joe Biden pardon.
This is like a Joe Biden pardon.
And there you have it, folks.
You're
saying it's worth less than the paper it's printed on.
Right.
I mean, but let's be honest with you. Would you rather have, let's say these people who are dependent on heroin, okay? Let's say they're posted up outside your house, Gretchen, panhandling for money all day so they can buy their drugs. Yeah. Wouldn't you rather them have a place to go that they don't have to be in front of your house? Like, that's what we're talking about here. I think beyond just doing drugs, it's like, look, it is what it is. All right. So how do you fix the issue rather than like promulgate another issue, making them criminals, putting them in jail, making them dependent on the state, which is effectively dependent on my tax dollars and your tax dollars. So this is something to consider. Not saying that our tax dollars won't pay for, things like a state-sponsored drug clinic for people, but I'd rather that than to pay endless money to like clean up homeless encampments and stuff like that. So let's
yeah, they do that in Australia. We were talking about Australia before. In Sydney, they definitely have free needle handouts and also free methadone if you want that. But
they have that in British Columbia too.
Well, but the free needle handouts aren't really the solution. They do that in San Francisco too, but then we end up with needles on the beaches. Like, you got to have a place where they don't need a needle. The person administering their drugs has the needle, and they discard it and dispose of it properly. So that person could go on about their day, and they just come back on their scheduled visit for their next dose.
So you just call it a shoot up clinic where you have someone administering the shoots up.
Shoot booth.
Yeah, it should be treated like a disease and not a crime.
So we're going to start calling these.
I think that's a good first step.
Are we going to start calling these nurses or doctors, whoever's administering this? Are we going to start calling them shooters?
Shut us.
We're at the top of the hour, a little over.
Wonder how much that job pays, right?
Pre-tip or just the tip? Thank you all out there for tuning in with us for yet another episode of High at 9 News. You can always catch us weekdays at 9 a.m. Pacific, high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our super fans, showing your love and support and affection, and our live audience members and online supporters across platforms, tuning in and giving us feedback on the daily headlines. To our vetted correspondent team, tuning in from all over, bringing us much needed variety of perspective and your respected opinions to the conversation. To our production team, Cloud Media Partners, House of Fuego, and the wonderful Jaja Simone holding things down over in Clubhouse. And to our sponsors, too, making sure our AV struggles stay to a minimum. And of course, to all you haters out there, we see you typing away in the chat. We love you, and just keep on doing it. Adds to our algorithm. And always, Cannabis Sativa L, the reason that High at 9 News team shows up to read these headlines daily. We love you. And it's Tuesday, April 25th, 2023. The show is over. You've been blessed with today's top industry headlines. Hope it was enough for you to put in your pipe and smoke it at least until tomorrow. Y'all know who it is. Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street, signing off. And remember, when life gives you no place else to turn, you can always turn the F up. Nicole Buffong, I screwed up your intro today. You got the outro. What you got for us?
Today, words of wisdom. Be nice to people. Doesn't cost you anything.
Yes.
Respect.